Hi, it's me, the autistic Gen X software developer with anxiety and depression, but some call me Tim. And today I would like to ask a question. So if you have been, probably some of you follow video games, but I'm sure a lot of you don't. This is not a video game channel. I am a nerd and have been playing video games since I was like 5, my entire life. It's part of me. I grew up with video games and I've never stopped playing them. Never. I'm playing them now. I'm playing a game called Factorio right now, finally trying to beat the damn thing. But what's happening is the AAA games are dying. And what I mean by that is there was 2 games that just came out. There's Hollow Knight 2, which is called Hollow Knight Silksong, and Hades 2. And they're both games done by tiny indie studios. They are not, big budget games from Fortnite people or, EA and, they are tiny teams, tiny games that they're selling for $20 or $25, right? If you look at the big name games, they have $100 million in budget and they take years to come out and they cost $70 US and they're garbage. They can't run. They crash all the time. It's like they're unfinished. And even that, when the big companies like Unreal Engine is like the engine, and then the games come out and they suck. So then people looked at Unreal Engine like, what the hell's going on, man? And the CEO was like, because you suck. You can't code. You need to optimize better. Like what? Well, I don't know what's wrong with you. So imagine that. Imagine you're in one of these giant companies. And I think they just bought EA or something. Somebody bought something, The Sims or something, right? Because they're dying. And one of the reasons that is given is that small teams can move fast, right? And large companies cannot. It's like the difference between piloting a freight ship, right? One of those giant ships that carry all the containers, and then a jet ski or a boat with 8 people in it, right? The boat can just go so fast to somewhere else, and the giant container ship cannot. So that's part of the explanation as to why this is happening. But what I want to ask, my question is, what I've been thinking about is, everybody's blaming the suits, the board. They're blaming all the executives for doing this stuff. And I wonder about the developers. Right? Because I'm the developer. I'm trying to make my own game. So I wonder about the developers that are there. These indie teams are developers that leave these AAA studios because they're frustrated and fed up. And they go and start their own thing and they make a game. Now, listen, if you don't know, when Hollow Knight 2 came out, it crashed all the stores because everybody in the world tried to buy it at once. That's a $20 game. They broke Steam. They broke the EA store. They broke the PlayStation store, Xbox, all of it. They all went down because people were trying to get this. And Hades 2 is like the biggest. It's got the best review on Steam and Metacritic, right? And hasn't even done any. You know what I mean? It's like there's no indie games, or not indie games. There's no AAA games even in the list of the top games this year. They're dying. But what about the developers? So I have a theory, because I've worked with toxic developers and I understand how game developers somehow think that they're better than everybody else. This is if you can go just search YouTube and you can find celebrity developers, that have like a cult following around them, just talking about how it's harder to make a video game than launch a satellite, right? Like NASA is easy. Rocket science is easy compared to rendering some pixels on the screen. No. And I love the fact that I hear this all the time. Like, web developers are stupid. They don't know how to code. They don't know anything about software. I'm like, so you're telling me that a web developer who makes 3 times as much as you and doesn't have to do overtime is dumb? Okay. You think that if you want. I think the smart developers are leaving the AAA game companies. And I think what happens is, because in game companies, as senior developers, they kind of, and this isn't just game companies, this is any giant software company that I've worked at, and I've worked at a lot. They kind of develop these little groups, these little cliques, right? They kind of believe in their leader and they go under them, like you have the boss, the gang boss, and then all the cronies. And the gang boss will whisper in the ear of the managers about how terrible everybody else is. It's nothing to do with reality, right? They're not doing anything. They're actually the horrible developers at the company, but they talk into the ear. They whisper into the ear of the king, like Wormtail, just spinning lies. And so then, and I'm talking, this was probably started 20 years ago. Then they lay everybody off, right? Boom. The game's finished. They lay off 90%. The 10% they keep are the people that have been whispering in their ear about how everybody else sucks. Which isn't true, by the way. Those whispering in the ear of the bosses are trying to save their ass because they know they're useless and they're going to get fired and not be able to be rehired either. So what do? Well, they talk about how they're better than everyone else. They point out all the flaws of everyone else and they stay. Well, then that guy gets put into a higher position and all those cronies under him, they become the new bosses of the little gangs. And then they believe the stuff that their Messiah boss is telling them about how great they are and how hard their job is. And, you only get paid a third for working 80 hours a week because it's so competitive and this job is so cutthroat. And I think that's kept going. And so a lot of these software teams now, not just in games, but it's got to be. I did work at one, and yeah, it was just full of senior developers, and they were all morons. They all thought they were the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I never saw a single thing that anybody ever did that was any more impressive than a web developer would do, or a systems programmer, or, I worked in a lab with custom hardware, doing real-time stuff, just like you're working with a computer with real-time graphics card. It's the same thing. And I met some people that were way smarter than most of the developers in these AAA companies. But they don't know it because for so long, their boss's boss has been talking to them about how brilliant they are and just blowing smoke up their ass. So they think they're amazing. The developers that actually know, they leave, start a company, 10 people, 20 people, and they're blowing people out of the water. And I bet they don't let that kind of shit happen at their studios, right? But yeah, I want to just start that conversation. Like, yes, I'm sure management and the boardrooms and all that stuff, and there's a committee and there's shareholders, and sure, but what about the developers? I think there's been this slow building of game developers thinking that they're smarter than everybody else. And it's just not true. I think, can a web developer just jump into systems programming? No, of course not. And can a systems programmer jump into the web? No, but for different reasons, because I think the systems programmers just assume web development is stupid. And so then they just dismiss it as, well, this is dumb. I don't even know why anyone would do this. Yeah. But there are reasons for all of it. They're not making Docker containers with NPM packages and all this stuff and deploying it with all this crazy continuous integration stuff because they don't know any better. Like, it's the same thing that's happened to you guys. You know, the boss got whispered in his ear of web developers who sucked and telling him that they're great and everybody else should be fired, and they get promoted, and then those guys get promoted, and on until you have the same thing going on in any software company that's been around for a while. So I just wanted to throw that out. I know there are problems, but I don't think you should just blame the boardroom and ignore the developers, because they have to be part of the problem or it wouldn't have gotten this far. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I'm sure that's a view that will ruffle some feathers. Luckily, I'm a small channel and nobody watches it, so I can kind of rant with impunity. So there you go. That's my rant for today. Peace. Oh, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, click that notification bell. Buy me a coffee. I don't have anything set up for Patreon or buy me a coffee or anything. I don't think that's something anyone's going to do. But hey, if you're interested in that, send me a message. I'll hook something up. Peace.